In our first story, government has attributed the country's energy challenge to the problem of fuel insecurity, explaining that even though there's enough capacity to generate electricity, securing fuel for thermal plants has not been readily available. Prolonged erratic power outages in many communities across Ghana have persisted for more than a month as a result of shortfalls in the supply of electricity. Although government has been given assurances that the power situation could ease, some consumers say the situation is getting worse by the day. Government, however, insists it is doing all it can to resolve the persistent challenge. Ira Kumsin has a lot more in this report.
Various government officials have often attributed the current energy challenge mainly to disruptions in Nigeria's troublesome energy sector. As a result, they point out, a cheaper option of gas from Nigeria is no longer reliable. Although consumers have had to endure the subsequent outages for a while now, government officials explain it is a temporary problem and not a protracted crisis. President Mahama indicated government, as a result, would not declare load shedding, and the electricity company of Ghana has also complied, refusing to release a schedule for the outages. Earlier this month, Finance Minister Seth Tepe, who is acting as Power Minister, indicated on Joy FM's Super Morning Show that the challenge should be resolved sooner than later. However, presenting the supplementary budget in Parliament Monday, he noted that the current installed capacity is enough to meet demand, except securing fuel for the plants has been the challenge.
We are not out of the woods yet due to challenges of fuel security. The current power sector bottlenecks emanate from the torrent-bearing challenges and the supply of gas, as I noted, from the West Africa gas pipeline. These incidents have reduced the amount of gas supplied to power plants which run mainly on gas. Mr. Speaker, in a bid to ease the current challenges, government is supporting the delivery of 400,000 barrels of light crude oil to feedstock and add to enable the dual fuel plants that we have produce more power.
Petroleum Minister Emmanuel Kofi Boah backs his colleague minister on that score, explaining attacks on pipelines in Nigeria have forced energy companies to cut back supply.
Enable the dual fuel plants that we have produce more power.
The problem is that we have no control of terrorists who decide to blow the pipeline that will bring the gas to Ghana. That's the challenge.
Honorable, subject to the fact that you made this arrangement with WAPCO, when are the gas going to start flowing from Nigeria?
As soon as we are able to repair those damaged pipelines and there's some certainty that they won't be blown up. That's the challenge we have. But that's why we are working overnight to make sure that we, as a country, can address the issue of import of LNG and can address the connection of East-West pipeline, so that ultimately we will be independent of all this. We are working day and night. But let me tell you, there's a challenge, and some of the challenges, like blowing the pipeline that bring the gas to Ghana, me and you, we don't have control.
The Corporate Affairs Director of the West African Pipeline Company, WAPCO, Harriet Werkobrobe, has however explained the company suspended the flow of gas from Nigeria to Ghana because government has refused to pay its bills for previous supply.
We are still expecting some payments to be made. Right now, the outstanding debt for WAPCO itself is 104. And we understand that WAPCO plant is NGAS, that's the supplier of the gas. We provide the transportation service to that company, and we expect them to pay us for the service that we render to them. I think that was the intention at the time. It has not happened that way for reasons that may be provided, but so many are following. Yeah, we don't know that yet. We are still in discussion. We are hoping that there will be a plan.
And still remaining in the power sector, the Energy Commission has granted 29 local companies licenses to import installations as well as deal in solar facilities in the country. The Director of Renewables at the Energy Commission, Kwabena Otudankwa, stated this in an interview with Joy Business. He said This is part of measures to overcome the over-dependence on hydro and thermal generation sources in Ghana. The country seeks to use renewable energy supply for more than 20% by 2020.
Under the law, we have a licensing regime for importation of renewable energy systems. And during the course of the year, we have licensed 29 companies to import solar systems. We haven't had any applications for individuals. I think all the applications that we have are for companies. They are either limited liability companies or enterprise. For the licensing process, I would say that in the law, we have so many activities that licenses are given for. For the procedure, I have mentioned that we have so many activities that licenses are taken for in the renewable energy sector. For the importation license, you need to submit your company registration. So, first and foremost, the entity that wants to do the importation will have to be licensed by the Registrar General. So you put in the application and you submit your documents, that is your registration documents, which includes incorporation document, a certificate to commence business. In addition to that, you should submit your company profile to us. Again, there is a fee which you pay, which is 3,500 Ghana cedis, and again, you should give us a certificate from Ghana Standards Authority to indicate that whatever product that you are bringing in meets the minimum technical specification which has been set.
Away from the sector, President John Dramani Mahama has urged Ghanaians to emulate the qualities exhibited by the late President John Evans Atta Mills. He cited his peaceful nature and the acceptance of varied as well as different views from all walks of life. These, he said, are attributes that set the late president apart from his peers. Well, these very virtues and legacy, President Mahama said, is guiding him in his presidency. President Mahama appealed to Ghanaians to emulate these attributes to move the nation forward. The president was speaking at the commissioning of the Atta Mills Presidential Library in Cape Coast in the Central Region, from where Richard Kojinyako reports.
It's certainly the day of the commissioning of the Presidential Library here. It is just opposite the Cape Coast Castle. It is adjacent to the Cape Coast Court Complex, and it is situated at the popular Chapel Square. The President, John Dramani Mahama, a short while ago commissioned this project. It has an audio room where when you enter, you hear the voice of the late President John Evans Atta Mills. There are a whole lot of people who grace this occasion. Her Excellency, the former President of Malawi, Joyce Hildebanda, was here, and people have been trooping in and out of this edifice. In fact, it is all joy for the people of Cape Coast. People even thought that this library was not going to be commissioned because the pace of work and the progress of work was not to their satisfaction.
The library has, among other spaces, an auditorium for public lectures, seminar room for syndicate discussions, and a beautiful pergola for functions. Unique to this library is a virtual sound room that echoes the voice of Professor Atta Mills in his memorable speeches and images that bring to life his sojourn on this land as a celebrated academic, a keen sportsman, a humble politician, a devout Christian, a servant leader. Though a bookless library, it will preserve and make available the papers, records, collections, and historical materials of Professor John Evans Atta Mills and other worthy industrious and illustrious sons and daughters of Africa. The library will also host research scholars, organize scholarly conferences and public lectures, hold outreach programs for the benefit of school children and the communities in the area, and mark commemorative events linked to anniversary observances of historical events and the commemoration of the lives of President John Evans Atta Mills and other prominent African intellectuals and political leaders. Speaking at the commissioning, the President John Dramani Mahama indicated that nothing better immortalizes the dream of the former president than this edifice. He called on Ghanaians to emulate the peace-loving character of the former president.
A peace-loving man, he prioritized peace above all else, because as Prof always rightly stated, without peace there can be no progress. He was on the Rock of Gibraltar, always calm even in the most adverse circumstances. He never responded when insults were cast at him. I believe I partly take from him my stoicism in tolerating even the unkindest cuts from my opponents and detractors. Since 1992, Ghana has established itself as a beacon of democracy. 6 successful elections and 2 peaceful transfers of power from one political party to another. One would presume that such transfers of power have been smooth and without rancor or acrimony. And yet beneath that veneer, our history has recorded persons asked to proceed on leave, dawn raids of the homes of political opponents ostensibly in search of arms, seizure of cars and other assets. With his father for all reputation, Professor Mills resisted any such urge to carry out a purge when he came into office. This was not in conformity with the popular thinking in our party. And yet he calmly said, this is not a coup d'etat. We must ensure a peaceful transfer of power. This is the man we celebrate today.
Some of his close associates who spoke with Joy News couldn't hide their excitement.
So as the president said, many other things have been done in his honor, but those encapsulate all the things that he stood for. The love for Ghana and also for Cape Coast and the Central Region, the love for education and for research, and the love for the people. Citing this here and not on the campus gives this library as a library which should be accessible to the community. So it actually encapsulates all that the man stood for.
Look at the heavy traffic that is going in. Look at the excitement. It's not only a library, it's a historical piece. And some of us are happy and we thank God for the opportunity to be part of this part of Ghana's history. I mean, if you go in there, you look at the audiovisual room, you walk into the library and you are met with President Mills' voice. I mean, for some of us, if we walk out of politics today, we can do so. I mean, not that I intend to, but we can walk home comfortably and say, we can get back into academia, get back into research, and really tell the story about Atta Mills, both locally and internationally. I'm excited. For me, I've moved from sorrow to joy because the legacy of Professor Mills still lives on. And I'm happy to say that my children, my grandchildren will come and read something about someone who has mentored me, someone who has brought me this far, someone I've worked with from 1996 till the very last minute. The good Lord himself called him. So today is a day of joy, it's a day of celebration, a mentor, a father, an inspirer. We are celebrating him, and for me, look at this edifice. It tells a lot of story, and I think that we thank God for everything.
From the Presidential Library here in Cape Coast, my name is Richard Kwejonya for Joy News.
Well, the Ghana Prisons Council is appealing for more support for its Efiase project to help alleviate the plight of prisoners nationwide. Chairman of the council, Reverend Dr. Stephen Wengam, who made the appeal at a news conference in Accra on Monday, explained more funds were needed to improve facilities within the prisons to help in reforming a lot more inmates. Here is Beryl Richter's report.
The Efiase project, which was launched on June 30, 2015 by President Mahama, has also been able to mobilize 200,000 Ghana cedi, although it set out a target of 25 million cedis. The project, which is an initiative of the council, is to create awareness about prison conditions and transform them into reformation centers. Addressing the media on Monday, Chairman of the council, Reverend Dr. Wengam, also enumerated the achievements of the project since its inception.
The Efiase is to do advocacy and sensitization aimed at changing perception toward the correction sector and the Ghana Prison Service as a whole, both locally and within the international community. And as for this one, Council will proudly score ourselves 101% because we've been able to put the Ghana Prison Service on the national agenda.
The council has also bemoaned the lack of a health facility for the service. Reverend Wengam revealed plans by the prison service to build a modern hospital to help cater for the health needs of prisoners, prison officers and the general public. He disclosed that already 7,000 out of 15,000 inmates have been registered under the National Health Scheme.
Our vision is to make sure that we get a modern prisons hospital. We keep building police stations. We are not building prisons. I don't know where the logic is from. We have police hospital, that's a military hospital. How come we don't have a hospital? We are the only security agency that takes custody of people. 15,000 inmates, 5,000 officers. So we are really working very hard and hope that through the Efiase funds we'll be able to build a modern prisons hospital.
The council has also been collaborating with the Justice for All programs, and according to Reverend Wengam, this has resulted in a remarkable improvement in the decongestion of the country's prisons.
Officials of the National Disaster Management Organization in the Northern Region have begun the registration of persons displaced last weekend following 18 hours of consistent rainfall in some communities in Sangmerugu district and the Tamale metropolis. One person is said to have died as a result of the downpour, which has also displaced hundreds of residents in two neighboring towns.
The heavy rains, which started on Saturday evening at 9 p.m. continued until 8 p.m. Sunday, submerged many homes and farmlands in Kalariga, Vitin, Gomani, Sognanyili, Tuguyapala, among others in the Tamale metropolis and Sagnerugu district respectively. Some residents in these communities have had their properties completely washed away by the flood waters, with some looking on helpless as the water took over their farmlands. Northern Regional Minister Abdullahi Abubakar on Monday afternoon led a team of NADMO officials to assess the extent of devastation in the affected communities. They visited Dungu, Gambaya and Kolinvilla among others. A middle-aged woman drowned and later died whilst trying to cross a flooded bridge to her community. The minister visited the home of the deceased and solidarized with the family. Assemblyman for Dungu electoral area in the Sagnerugu district, Haruna Mumuni, confirmed the death of Azara Fusaini. He appealed to authorities to step up efforts to repair broken stone bridges linking the Dungu community.
Yesterday around 3:30 when they flooded the whole area, and we were told a certain lady passed away. So we couldn't confirm until this morning. We traced her and then we had her. So she's called Alasan Azara. We reported day in, day out, and I think it's on the pipeline. That's what they have been telling us.
Chief of Tuguyapala, Alhaji Abdullahi Mubila, whose community farmers had their farmland submerged in flood waters, warns government to begin to find ways to harvest such waters for dry season farming to mitigate the impact of floods on farmers. Northern Region Minister Abdullahi Abubakar, addressing journalists after the assessment tour, said the displaced persons will be supported with relief items by NADMO while steps are taken to construct roads and drainage systems in such flooded communities.
the most important thing is, first of all, for us to do an assessment of the situation, action or remedial intervention without a very good understanding of the situation. So first seeking to understand the level and the amount of damage that has been caused by this flooding is very significant for any step or next steps. And that is why this morning we've taken time together with the MC and the DC of the area to get to the ground with the NADMO personnel so that this morning they could do a very thorough assessment of the damage done. It is based on this assessment and a proper assessment of the situation that will prescribe intervention that will help mitigate the impact that has been caused. Of course, unfortunately, one of the effects is that we've lost one person, and that one, it is not easy and it's not even possible for us to redeem the life that we've lost. But that at least we will want to advise every citizen of Tamale and every person around to avoid these water bodies when there's flooding.
And that's it for the news. Please make sure you get interactive. On Facebook, we have Joy News on TV. It's a regular page there. But also on WhatsApp, we have the number 0560 800,000 through which you can give us a lot more of your comments. We know that many of you in those affected areas also seem to be giving us a lot more of those comments. We will relay a couple of them to you. But next, we have to look at what stories there are. Front, back pages of the various newspapers. We already have a couple of them in the studio. And then also we'll look at some online portals. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll look at those stories. Do stay on.